Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Shmuley Show back in New York. And I'm going to go cycling today, God willing. I got to talk to you about important stuff, by the way. This one, honestly, but we'll fix it next time. Okay. Okay. You guys followed all my stuff in Europe. Let's get straight to something that so upset me yesterday. I arrived in JFK Airport. I went straight to the U.S. Open, which was on the way back home. I had to meet someone there. We see each other once a year at the U.S. Open. Exciting tennis. But then I read the story in the New York Times, because I'm not like a big tennis guy. So, in between matches, I'm checking my stuff and emails. And I see the story in the New York Times about the rehabilitation. It was actually the Atlantic, the rehabilitation of Adolf Hitler in America. How many people are rehabbing Adolf Hitler in America? And can you imagine how upset I was at that? I want to give you an idea how bad this has gotten. Tucker Carlson, who arguably, along with Joe Rogan, has the number one podcast in all of America. Tucker Carlson keeps on having, day after day, historians that he claims are acclaimed historians. They're actually jokes, obviously, conspiracy nutcases, fruitcakes, idiots, imbeciles. And they're all saying that Hitler was actually the good guy in the war and Churchill was the bad guy. And that we have to completely reevaluate the two. Just think about that for a moment. Then you have Candace Owens, who said a few days ago, why do we use Hitler as the benchmark of evil? Why is he so bad? Why is he so evil? From there, you have Ben Shapiro's Daily Liar, the Daily Liar that trades in anti-Semitism. He wears a yarmulke and he makes millions of dollars off anti-Semitism, Candace Owens, and now the anti-Semitism of rehabbing Hitler's Pope Pius XII. So then you have the Daily Liar with Michael Knowles spending the company's resources to make this 4-part documentary that Hitler's Pope Pius XII was actually a saint. So again, we're belittling Hitler. We're belittling the Holocaust. But the actual rehabbing of Hitler himself was the ultimate taboo. I mean, Hitler, of course, was the symbol of evil in the world. That you can have Tucker Carlson, and how much is Qatar paying him, allegedly? How much is for him to have to actually rehab Hitler? Let's just remember that a lot of our Arab brothers and sisters, did you check the audio? A lot of our Arab brothers and sisters actually wanted to bring Hitler's solution, the final solution, to Europe. They wanted there to be actual gas chambers. That was Haj Amin al-Husseini. He was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. He actually was a member of the Nazi Party. There's tons of pictures of him and Hitler himself. And he had to escape the British and escape to Hitler. I mean, you can't even frickin' make this stuff up, right? So that the leader of the Arabs in Palestine during the Second World War was a Nazi who wanted to gas all the Jews. And we wonder today why Israel fights back so hard against Hamas. That says the same thing. They don't have the gas chambers. They only have 3,000 terrorists that will come and decapitate you and burn you alive and cut your genitalia off and shoot you in the genitalia. So they don't have gas chambers because Israel doesn't allow it. Otherwise, they'd have that too. But the rehabbing of Adolf Hitler in America, let's just remember who Hitler was. Besides the 6 million, because I don't want to talk too much about the Holocaust and the 6 million, because I don't want to make Tucker Carlson happy today. I don't want to make Candace Owens all happy today by reminding them that 6 million Jews died, because it would just make their day. Let's just go to America. These people claim to be America firsters. They claim they want to make America great again. Hitler killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. 450,000 American soldiers died in the Second World War, let alone maybe 2-3 million that were maimed and that were injured and that were permanently incapacitated with lost arms, lost legs, etc., let alone the PTSD of millions of soldiers. Now, of the 450,000, I don't know the exact breakdown, and I would appreciate if someone looked it up, but how many of the 450,000 were killed by the Nazis in the German theater, the European theater, which was the main theater of war? The Pacific was always treated as a second. It bothered MacArthur, it bothered Chester Nimitz that they were treated as a backwater. But how many were killed by Hitler? So I'm guessing about 300,000, about 150,000 in the Pacific. That's what I'm guessing. Just think about that. A man who killed 350,000 Americans. 350,000 Americans. We lost 3,000 just down the road here on 9/11. Whose anniversary is coming up in a few days, 24th anniversary. Osama bin Laden is evil till today because he killed 3,000 Americans. Hitler killed 100 times that, besides everything else that he did, and he's being rehabbed in America. How is Tucker Carlson who is an inveterate anti-Semite, who is an anti-Semite to his core, who is a Jew hater in his heart, in his very being, how is he being rehabbed today? How could that possibly happen? How could any of this happen? The fact that Clandis Ovens, the fact that Clandis, who was made a celebrity by a guy with a yarmulke, Ben Shapiro, who's never expressed remorse about that, who's never condemned her. The fact that Candace Owens loves Hitler makes perfect sense. She's an American Nazi. She's American Klan. She is the most vituperative, disgusting, knuckle-dragging monster, Jew hater. She hates blacks more than she even hates Jews. She hates her own community more than even if that's possible. I actually have to, that's probably not true. She hates blacks almost as much as Jews. But the fact that Clandis Ovens loves Hitler, I get it. She's a Nazi, and Nazis love Hitler. But how is it that a guy who was just on Fox News up until a year ago, how is it that a guy named Tucker Carlson, who was MSNBC, who wrote for the Standard, owned by Rupert Murdoch, run by William Kristol, how could he be a Hitler lover? So let me tell you why all this is happening. All of this is an attack on the Jews, obviously, because if you rehab Hitler, you're basically saying that he didn't do anything wrong, that the Holocaust wasn't the worst crime in all human history, that a true genocide of the Jews, gassing 10,000 Jews a day is not a bad thing. Clearly, it's anti-Semitic, but it's actually anti-Semitic in modern times. Because the purpose of the rehabbing of Adolf Hitler, you should understand, is to condemn Israel. Because if we rehab Adolf Hitler, and say that Churchill was the bad guy. Churchill was the one who killed so many civilians in order to stop Hitler. Hitler was this terrible cancer. He had to be stopped. And often when you have to kill a cancer and you use chemotherapy, you kill a lot of good cells. So a lot of innocent civilians in Germany were killed. But if you now blame Churchill as the bad guy, if you say Churchill, he firebombed Cologne, he firebombed Dresden, he firebombed Berlin. Harry Truman dropped atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They're the bad guys. Hitler was just the same or better. Now you're attacking Israel because now Israel's only real defense in the fact that civilians are dying in Gaza is because Hamas uses them as human shields, just as Hitler used his civilians as human shields. Israel's defense of the fact that there are tragically civilian deaths in Gaza is that in order to destroy Hamas, the Nazis of Gaza, in order to destroy Yahya Sinwar, the Hitler of Gaza, sometimes, sadly, when they embed themselves in a civilian population, people are going to die. Well, and we say Churchill did the same thing, and Roosevelt did the same thing, but what if Churchill and Roosevelt are actually the Hitlers? What if they're the bad guys? That means that Netanyahu is exactly like them. He's now Hitler. By reversing the morality of the Second World War, you were able to attack Israel and the Jews in a totally new way. And I really do wonder, honestly, how much of this is being funded by Qatar and by Iran. Qatar is the most disgusting government on earth, with the sole exception of Iran. I was just in Europe, and you have to watch, you have to see what it's like to watch Al Jazeera in English. Al Jazeera is Der Stürmer, that was run by Julius Streicher, the worst of all the Nazis. It's impossible to even to describe how bad this is. That Al Jazeera will talk openly about Jews as virtually as Nazis, genocide, every word is genocide. That's Qatar. How much of all the demonstrations around the world, which are definitely being coordinated, some of them were so small that we saw, like in the city of Basel, 100 people, they're being paid. It's being organized. It's all being orchestrated. It's probably being orchestrated by Qatari money. I bet if we had investigative journalists out there, you'd discover that. But the same thing is probably true. Is Clandis Ovens taking massive Qatari money? Because these people do everything for two reasons: anti-Semitism and money. And the two together are a lethal combination. Anti-Semitism and money. Anti-Semitism and money. Tucker Carlson, where did the money come for his new investment group? Where did that money come from Tucker, for Tucker? How much is Qatar? And why won't he answer when we simply ask him, are you basically attacking Churchill because of Qatar? Are you attacking Netanyahu because of Qatar? Are you attacking Israel because of Qatar? Because all of this stuff that Tucker Carlson is saying, and now rehabbing Hitler, is not just lies and fabrications. It is so sickening that any American would rehab a man who killed 500,000 Americans. Is shocking. That any American would rehab the most evil man that ever lived, that the Germans want no part of. But Americans are now becoming, right-wing Americans, and I shouldn't say right wing, there was so many righteous right wing, like our President Trump. But the fact that so many sicko far right people, a lot of them from the Daily Wire, are rehabbing Hitler is sickening. Which brings me to Ben Shapiro. Ben, either wear the yarmulke and condemn Clandis ovens and condemn Michael Knowles, who you're making so much money off now, who's rehabbing, or just take the freaking yarmulke off. Not because you're not an Orthodox Jew, but because you're just embarrassing what we stand for. You cannot be a Jew with a yarmulke and participate even by a few degrees of separation in the rehabilitation of Adolf Hitler. You just can't do that. Ben, if you can't speak up today and say that Clandis Ovens, who you made into a celebrity and gave her a global platform, is a disgusting, vile Hitler lover, then take the frickin' yarmulke off. At least don't humiliate the rest of us Jews that we have no moral compass, because you may not have one, and Tucker Carlson may not have one, and Michael Knowles may not have one, and Dan Nobalzerian may not have one, and these disgusting historians that Tucker Carlson brings onto his show may not have a moral compass. But we Jews have it, and that's why we're so hated. The reason for anti-Semitism is specifically because people hate that the Jews are the conscience of the world. We were brought, God gave us this mission to teach the world, do not murder, do not steal, do not commit adultery. We are the conscience of the world. And what does the world do to a conscience? What is the reason for anti-Semitism? You kill your conscience. If you want to cheat on your wife, you kill your conscience first with alcohol. You get very drunk together, and then you sleep with your mistress. But if you want to kill the global conscience, you gas it. You destroy the people who taught the world, do not steal, do not murder, do not kill, do not commit adultery, do not envy, do not blaspheme, etc., etc., etc. And that's why the more that Tucker Carlson and Clandis Ovens and Dan Nobalzerian and Michael Knowles, he doesn't know anything, attack the Jews, the more they get rid of, the more they can make America into a sick sewer of racism, black hatred. We can go back to the Klan days, just like Clandis. Clandis is Klan. I mean, she's a black Klan wizard of the Klan. I'd love to hear your comments on that today, and God bless you all. And we'll see you tomorrow for a longer show. I want to hear what you have to say. America's rehabbing Hitler. God bless you.